League of Women Voters and your moderator for this forum. The League of Women Voters, a nonpartisan political organization, envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. The League of Women Voters is an organization fully committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion in principle and in practice. Tonight's forum is being videotaped by Verde Independent for broadcasting on YouTube and other social media outlets. Thank you, Vito. The purpose of this forum is to hear from the candidates on why they want to be Clarkdale Councilor. It is also an opportunity for candidates to answer questions submitted by the voters to the Chamber of Commerce prior to this forum. The goal of this forum is fairness, civility, and engagement. I would like to introduce first our timekeeper, Janet Kissinger, who's right down in front. Her role is to keep us on time. She has 3 signs, a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign, and she will raise those signs throughout the questions. When the candidates reach the stop sign, they will have an opportunity to finish their sentence, and then they will have to quit answering their question. The format this evening is in 3 parts. The first part is opening remarks, and the candidates will each have 2 minutes to address that. And then they will have 2 minutes to address a question they received in advance from the League of Women Voters. Part 2 is questions submitted by the voters. The Chamber solicited questions from the public prior to the forum. These questions have been compiled and organized for the moderator to ask at the forum. We received far more questions than time allowed this evening, so please contact the candidates directly if your questions were not answered. And then part 3 is closing statements. Candidates will have 1 minute to make a closing statement. As we get started, I also want to go over guidelines for this forum. The moderator's role is to manage the forum fairly for the candidates and the audience, with the goal of keeping the discussion moving forward. We ask 4 things of the candidates: be respectful of each other's points of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. The audience is asked to refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or non-support for the candidate and their comments. Time limits on responses will be strictly observed, and it's my responsibility to ensure that that takes place. If these guidelines are not adhered to, the moderator has the right to cancel the forum. Now I would like to introduce the 4 candidates running for council. They are in alphabetical order: Amanda Arnold, Marnie Babbitt-Pierce, Debbie Hunsuter, and Nathan Porter. The candidates will speak in an order that was drawn before we started the forum. You'll notice they're not sitting in alphabetical order. They will speak in the order that they are sitting here at the tables. We will begin now with opening statements. Amanda will be the first. The candidates were given the question to introduce themselves and address the following. When did you move to the community and why? Why are you running for office and why are you the best candidate? What is your experience serving in public office in the municipality as a volunteer and in your career that prepares you to serve for this position? If an incumbent, what was your experience prior to being elected? Amanda, you have 2 minutes.
I'm going to break the ice here. I'm Amanda Arnold. Thank you for coming to listen to us today. I first discovered the Verde Valley in '99 when I was working for the National Park Service at Grand Canyon. And it just caught my heart, especially Clarkdale and of course Jerome. In '04, I decided, oh heck, I'm just going to move to Jerome. I'm going to try it. So I moved to Jerome from Indiana, just an Indiana gal checking out the Southwest. And I was there and had my son, and ultimately we moved down here to Clarkdale. And I just fell in love with the place. Well, as life happens, I returned to Indiana after a few years, where I ended up taking my master's degree in communication. Once I received that, I came back to to work at other national parks, such as in Flagstaff. But the area was always in my heart. It always sat right here. So in 17, we returned to the Verde Valley, and in 21, I ultimately bought my house. And since then, I've been a full-time realtor. Sometimes I do miss the park service, but I enjoy helping people as well. And I also serve as the president for the Rotary Club at the Verde Valley. But what triggered me to run for council, when the issue with the bandstand came up, it was unanimously voted to be replaced. And that didn't sit well with me, because I was listening to our community, and a lot of people were not for that. So I started to look at different angles, because I was raised and always look at different angles to explore. Thank you. So I eventually called the State Historic Preservation Office, and I said, do you know what is going on with the bandstand? And they did not. So they didn't have the latest update, that's what I'm saying. So from there, I started to look at other things that we need to look at a little closer, such as transparency, keeping slow growth to keep the small town, and historic preservation with collaboration with our business and building owners. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Nathan?
Hello and welcome. I'm Nathan Porter. I lived in the Mountain Gate community for 5 years. I spent most of my life growing up and working in the Phoenix area, except for 4 years I spent in the U.S. Army, and I spent 3 years in Tucson attending the U of A. I worked for 23 years as a paralegal in the Tempe City Prosecutor Office. During my time at the City of Tempe, I also was involved in employee associations, which involved regularly attending council meetings and interacting with the city manager. After my 23 years with the city, in 2019 I retired, and my wife and I decided to get out of the big city and move to a much nicer, smaller community, which is Clarkdale. When I got to Clarkdale, I decided to be involved in the community. So I volunteered at the Clarkdale Historical Society Museum. I also served on the Clarkdale General Plan Update Committee, which was in 2020 and 2021, was delayed by COVID. And I also currently volunteer for the Park Committee for the Mountain Gate HOA. We have a nice park there in Mountain Gate. I decided to run for council kind of similar to Amanda. When I saw the council's decision about the bandstand in the park, I was concerned about their commitment to historical preservation, and I was also concerned that the council didn't seem to consult the Historical Preservation Commission. I thought that's what they're there for, and I was also surprised that there was a lot of public opposition that the council didn't seem to be aware of. If I'm elected, one of my main principles is going to be open communication, to be accessible, transparent, and make sure the community knows what's going on. And I will also pledge to make careful decisions with all the information possible from all the city staff and commissions. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Debbie?
Good evening. I wish to thank the League of Women Voters, the Greater Cottonwood Chamber, and the Clarkdale Jerome School for hosting tonight's forum. I would also like to thank all those present tonight for your willingness to participate in the future of Clarkdale. I wish to thank my husband of 43 years, Nick, for his continued support and patience. We have lived here for 20 years and visited the area 18 prior to moving here. I'm currently a retired professional project manager. My husband is a sole proprietor of his own business, and sometimes I jump in to help when needed. I've been a council member since 2018, and in 2020 I was unanimously appointed by the council to serve as your vice mayor. Prior to council, I served as Clarkdale Planning and Zoning Commissioner for 3 years. I'm also currently a board member for NACOG, which includes serving as Secretary-Treasurer on the Executive Board. I'm Secretary for the Clarkdale Foundation and a volunteer with the Clarkdale Downtown Business Alliance. Reflecting on my time serving you over the past 6 years as a council member has been a profound honor. Throughout this journey, I've never missed a council meeting, dedicating myself to representing your voices and interests with unwavering commitment. Working alongside dedicated colleagues with an exceptional town staff and passionate community members has been immensely rewarding. Together, we've achieved significant milestones, maintaining a balanced budget without burdening you with increased property taxes, by securing nearly $11 million in grant funding, We've lightened the town's financial load and embarked on crucial improvement projects spanning water, wastewater, streets, parks, historic infrastructure repairs, and trails. Looking ahead, I'm eager to continue the progress we've made. My vision for Clarkdale remains steadfast to preserve our unique charm, safeguard our rich history, and ensure the prosperity of our community while responsibly managing our finances. As we confront new challenges, I'm committed to leading with integrity and dedication, always prioritizing the well-being and security of our citizens. For me, this isn't about politics or being in the spotlight. It's about people. I'm deeply invested in the health, safety, and prosperity of each resident, and I pledge to tirelessly advocate for our collective interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Marnie?
Thank you. Thank you to the League and to the Chamber and to all of you for being here tonight. Thank you especially to my mom, my husband, Michael, and you all have to excuse me. My father recently died, and I really wish he was here. I moved from Flagstaff to Clarkdale in 2017 when Michael and I got engaged. He was already working at Yavapai College, but Clarkdale is not new to my family. My mother's father, Ralph Cusell, grew up in the superintendent's house that is now the police station. Michael and I chose to make our home in Clarkdale to raise our family in a tight-knit, warm community. And I currently am employed as a board-certified health and wellness coach. I have experience in higher education and in the nonprofit sector. My work experience has provided me with the skills to actively listen and ask questions, to research complex issues, and to manage large budgets. I served on the Clarkdale Parks and Recreation Commission for 3 years before being elected to council in 2020, and in Flagstaff, I served on the Library Commission. I am the best candidate because I have a mind for public service. I care about Clarkdale, I listen to the public, and I take the time to learn about and understand the complex decisions put before the council. I'm proud that we have not increased the property tax rate during my tenure. We now have 24-hour police coverage, and we are applying for and receiving grants to make much-needed updates to our aging infrastructure. I currently represent Clarkdale on the following groups: the Cottonwood Area Transit, the Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization, the NACOG Transportation Policy Advisory Council, and Yavapai Communities for Young Children.
Thank you. We will now move on to the next question, which was from the League of Women Voters. Nathan, you will be first up to answer this question. As the Verde Valley continues to grow, what does growth look like to you in Clarkdale? Specifically, tell us what you plan to do in your elected role.
Well, I look at growth from two perspectives. From one perspective, from the town's perspective, growth is economically beneficial. It brings in more residents, more property tax revenue, and it's also beneficial to businesses because it brings in more customers and there's more demand for goods and services, and it can also lead to more businesses. So from the town's point of view, growth is beneficial. The town wants to see growth. But from a resident's point of view, the residents who want to keep Clarkdale who want to keep a small town atmosphere in Clarkdale, growth is not such a great thing. When I've talked to voters as I've campaigned, they've told me that they want to maintain the small town atmosphere. In our own general plan, one of the important values of the residents is small town atmosphere. So there's going to be a constant tension between the two perspectives. I realize that some growth's inevitable. The town in itself can't stop growth. But the town and the council can make careful decisions about what growth we're going to support. We can talk to developers. If I am elected, I will be sure to make careful decisions that will balance between the benefits of growth and the consequences of growth. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Growth. Our small town character and values are fiercely guarded by all citizens regardless of tenure. However, I don't know anyone who honestly believes that we will not grow over time. This is something that's defined in our general plan, our strategic plan, and our budget. What I strive to see is sustainable growth, smart growth, and growth that serves the needs of our community. We as a council need to continually ask the questions of those seeking to come here. What will be the local impact? What kind of community partner will you be? What are you seeking from the community? We need to ask, how are you different than every other box that pops up around the state? I think it would be nice to have a few more restaurant options or a grocery store where we can get fresh fruit and produce. We need services like a pharmacy, clinics, and many other things that can generate revenues to help us improve our aging infrastructure. We need to remain mindful that development cannot surpass infrastructure growth. And today I attended the Milwaukee grand opening, and what a fantastic add to the community. I think I've seen many of the same faces here tonight that were there today, and what a great community partner that has joined us. Thank you.
Marnie?
Thank you. We need to channel our spirit of a small town for modest planned growth. We need to focus on historic preservation, appropriate zoning, investing in our aging infrastructure, and planning for the Clarkdale that we want in 50 years. I'm committed to not raising property taxes and ensuring that the town's needs are met through the grants that we can access. Last year, we received $10 million in grants. We currently have applications out for another $20 million. There are opportunities for funding, and we are pursuing them. Please support our tax base by buying local when you can, and ordering online and shipping to Clarkdale when you can't. Water is a great concern of mine. Water is our most precious and limited resource, and our infrastructure is old. If we never built another house in Clarkdale, we would still need redundancy in our system. And so we need another well, which we have a grant for the planning of. We need redundancy so that we don't have an issue like we did last summer where there wasn't enough water and we had to ask people to conserve. And then we have to stop the deferred maintenance of our infrastructure, of our roads, of our water system, and of our historic buildings. We have initiated the Capital Improvement Plan, which is a 5-year rolling document that helps us to plan for the needs, but more importantly for the council, it helps us to fund those needs. So we know what's coming up, we know what the town needs, and we can plan to pay for it so we can ensure that we have what we need. I'm extremely proud of the CIP and all the plans we have and everything that we've accomplished since 2020.
Thank you. Amanda?
Clarkdale must avoid unregulated growth. Slow growth appeals to many aspects of public life, which is healthy, is complex, varied, and hard to quantify. It also promotes structures that respect the story of Clarkdale, which is what a lot of the folks are here for, the historic story, and maintains the small town feel. Overdevelopment threatens the character of Clarkdale. Rapid development will result in a destructive runoff for a way of life and the historic qualities for future generations. I think that the outpour from the community for the Highland project kind of demonstrated where the citizens of Clarkdale stands as far as high density. Of course, we cannot avoid growth, but slow growth is certainly the way to go because it promotes ownership and businesses. Putting a lot of structures in at once, of course, will just diminish our town. I did sell a house to a couple last year over in Crossroads, and they said, Amanda, if this starts growing really fast, like towns in the Midwest where it's just jammed up with subdivisions, we're moving. We didn't come here for this. We came here for Clarkdale. That, of course, is many of the comments that I heard when that was going on. Of course, that's now tabled for the Highland project. So going forward, we must be mindful of the projects coming in. There's no need to rush. If you rush things, it's gone. So I'm promoting small growth, listening to the citizens, having neighborhood meetings so people know what is going on before reading it in the paper after it's already been done. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie, you'll be up next for this question. You'll have a minute and a half to answer this. Next 2 years. And how would you meet these challenges? Please be specific, and what resources are needed to address these issues?
The top 3 issues, one is infrastructure, one is deferred maintenance, and one is water security. And I think all 3 of them have equal bearing. We're considering all of them and working on all of them. We've got capital improvement projects in place to work on all of these. We've got grant funding, as you've already heard, that we've got in-house and other applications submitted to work on these issues. As a council, we'll continue to work with staff and through our strategic plan and our general plan to work on these things. They're all in there. Got plans in place to resolve those things. And that's it.
Great, thank you. Marnie?
Thank you. So if you're not familiar with how we plan in the town of Clarkdale, we have the general plan, which is created by a committee every 10 years. And then annually, the town council gets together and does strategic planning that then leads into the budget process. And so we don't have a lot of surprises coming down the pike at us in the town of Clarkdale. We are well aware of the challenges of our aging infrastructure, of our water system, and of our roads. And so we have plans in place. We know how much things are going to cost. We have them on the list, so that means that we can start looking for grants for planning of items. That means we can start putting together drawings so that when there is a grant, we are shovel ready, we are ready to go. There is money coming down from the federal government, and if there's anything we need right now, it is money. And I think we all know that the tax base here is not big enough to cover some of the projects that we want to see for our town. And so the only way to get that is to get it from grants and other opportunities. And so we have to be ready, we have to plan for it, and we are. We have plans. We are ready, the money is coming, and Clarkdale is doing a great job of capturing it.
Thank you. Amanda?
Of course, we need to be proactive with water and infrastructure, but what I see that needs to be addressed at the moment is transparency and community-involved participation. I was at an event yesterday, and one of the participants at the event said, well, I didn't know what was going on with the bandstand until I read it in the paper. How come we didn't know beforehand? Well, that's a good question. So transparency, keep the community involved, do frequent surveys, and share the results so we know where we're going forward. So surveys, more and more surveys on what people would like to see in Clarkdale. Of course, slow growth, avoiding unregulated fast growth, which we discussed a moment ago, that needs to be addressed as well, and maintaining the historic integrity of downtown buildings that preserve the story of Clarkdale. The town of Clarkdale should work with historic building owners to obtain a variety of state and federal grants. In regards to the historic preservation ordinance, there should be work sessions where the building owners and business owners are working together with the town, so we're on the same page and working together as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. Nathan?
Well, the challenges I see, the first one is infrastructure in the form of streets, water, and wastewater. Since I decided to run for council, I've been attending a lot of council meetings, a lot of council work sessions. So I attended the streets work session, and I was happy to see that the town manager, town staff, and the council decided to put money aside on a regular basis in the next 5 years so that there will be money, some money available for repairing streets. The second challenge that I see is growth. Again, as I said, if we have growth, it's going to change our small town atmosphere. We'll lose our open spaces, might lose part of our wonderful natural environment that we have. Again, I would try to balance our growth decisions to do what's best for what the residents want and the community that we're all used to and what we love. Third challenge I see is water and sustainability. If we continue to have a lot of growth, we have to be really mindful of our water resources. I'm a member of this Central Arizona Water Advocacy Group, which is based in Prescott, but they really keep track of our water resources because our water resources depend on groundwater coming from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie, you'll be first on this question, and it relates to communication. And you have 1 minute. How does the town of Clarkdale currently communicate with the public? And what should be the priorities for improving communication, transparency, and public engagement in the future?
Thank you. I am really proud of the work that we've done over the last 4 years to improve communication in the town of Clarkdale. So of course, all of our agendas are always published on the website. The entire packet is there that is available to anyone at any time. All of our meetings are open except when we are in executive session seeking legal advice. But in addition to that, we have a weekly newsletter that has gone out with tons of information. Small talk comes every month in your water bill. There are a lot of things that the town has improved on to ensure that people understand what is going on. And one area that I think we can improve, and I know we have it in the strategic plan to do so, is when there is a new property, when there's a change happening to a property, how many neighbors we have to notify, that radius is going to be expanded.
Thank you. Amanda?
I've touched on transparency and I've touched on communication. I will say, since the bandstand, communication has improved somewhat. The announcements, of course, are in our newsletter. They're on the website. I would just like to see a little bit more. Cottonwood, of course, they're very good about announcing upcoming meetings on the radio, so folks know what is coming down the pipe. It's not always easy to find information on the website. Sometimes you have to dig a little bit, so that I think could be improved. Being available for the public to come speak to us would also be something I would like to participate in, and taking regular surveys, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan?
The town manager currently has a newsletter that goes out by email to people. I think that's a really good form of communication to let people know what's going on. The town also has what I like a lot are open houses and community meetings. There were a lot of open houses regarding trails. There were open houses regarding park development, Selma-Mangini Park. And I recently attended a community meeting to get the community's response to suggested changes in zoning. So those, I think, are some successful ways the town is communicating. As a council member, if I were elected, I would also want to point people. I mean, there are a lot of people in town with a lot of expertise, our boards and commission leaders, and other people in town, just to get an idea of what people are hearing, what people need to know. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Since I've been on council during my tenure, actually let me back up a little bit. When we moved here 20 years ago, about the only way I could get information about the town was through the Small Talk newsletter that would come in everybody's utility bill. And those are still continuing, but we've been able to improve upon that over the last few years. We have a new website for both the town operations and tourism marketing. We have a weekly e-newsletter that comes out from our town manager, as you've heard, with lots of information. We have routine social media posts, creation of departmental key performance indicators that are in every council package, a video recording of all board and commission meetings, launched the reverse 911 system. We have alternate commission members to increase our breadth of voices. Got the first community-wide satisfaction survey came out. We've got the first Clarkdale annual report that just came out, and lots more. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. Amanda, you'll be up first for this one, okay? You'll have 2 minutes, and it's on partnerships and collaboration. Many of the town's issues involve participation of outside entities or organizations. What are the top 3 most critical partners and why? And how will you build and strengthen partnerships with these 3 entities?
Well, when I need to do more research on a subject, when I do not know the answer to a subject, I'm not going to sit up here and act like I do. Instead, what I'm going to tell you is I'm going to research that so I have the best answers for you next time. When I worked for the Park Service, I learned that very early in my career. If someone said, "Hey, what is that bird?" "Oh, I guess that's just whatever bird." I just wouldn't make up the name. I'd say, "I will look that up. And if I don't find it for you while you're on your stay, I'll mail you the information." It was back before the internet, so we'd have to mail them stuff back to people a long time ago. But that is my answer for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan.
Well, I think one partnership that's important for the town is the city of Cottonwood. Cottonwood runs the airport. When I've been campaigning and talking to neighbors in Mountain Gate, airport noise is a big issue for a lot of people. And the city runs the airport. I understand that the Federal Aviation Administration also has a lot of control of what the airport does. But I think that's an example of where the town can reach beyond its own resources to talk to the city of Cottonwood about what they can do about the airport. City of Cottonwood also is much bigger than Clarkdale. They've got a bigger budget. They have more development going on. I think the town of Clarkdale needs to sort of lean into the city of Cottonwood and their resources instead of trying to develop Clarkdale into another Cottonwood and make it a big city, which I don't think a lot of people want to do. Another partnership I think we need to develop is with Yavapai County. I know one of the questions that has come up is about Yavapai College. I know the county doesn't directly control Yavapai College, I'm aware of that, but we need to work with the county as far as possibly starting an independent college. We need to have some autonomy for the college in this area, and I think the county could help us with that. The county can also help with water issues. We're hoping that the county will also start a water advisory committee that will involve all the Verde Valley towns and other governments to make water decisions. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Debbie.
Yes. 3 top partners, that was the question. I believe that Cottonwood is a strategic partner of Clarkdale. We rely, because we're such a small town and we share resources with Cottonwood, one being the court, another being the airport, and the dispatch, and mutual support with the police department. We share a lot of services because of them, and it's cost effective. Next would be Yavapai College. We rely on them for job skills coming out for our workforce. The mayor, the manager, and myself meet on a regular basis, quarterly basis, with the president of Yavapai College so that we can share challenges and concerns. Another big partner, I think, is Northern Arizona Healthcare, or as we know it, Verde Valley Medical Center. They have a new president and CEO over there, and I know that he attends the manager-mayor meetings and provides input and hears input back. So I think those are the top 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty.
I can't pick 3, so I picked 3 buckets. Because our small but mighty staff are incredible, but we rely heavily on those around us to get everything that we get done. So I think the 3 buckets are other communities and the county. So that's Cottonwood, that's Jerome, Sedona, all of those, the county. Every board that I sit on has representatives from those organizations. We work together to ensure that every community gets what they need out of the partnership so that we can be strong, we can be thriving, we can be learning from each other, and we don't have to recreate the wheel. The next one is the federal government. They're assisting us with the airport and some of those issues. They're where a lot of the grants are coming from. Senator Kelly's staff is incredible and extremely receptive to us and really supportive of the town of Clarkdale. And then finally, I would say organizations like NACOG and the League of Cities and Towns. Those organizations provide us with resources to what's happening on the state and national level to help us know what's going on. For example, when we were able to change some of the short-term rental ordinances, that was through a lot of work that the League of Cities and Towns had done on our behalf. A lot of the transportation grants that we are teed up for are because of the support of NACOG.
Thank you. Nathan, you'll be first on this question. We have 1 minute, and it's about local control. Sure, sorry. This question is on local control, and the candidates have 1 minute. We have seen a growing trend at the state level to disempower local governments and tie our hands regarding things like short-term rentals, cellular towers, local zoning, local sales tax, and more. What do you feel is the best way as a counselor to handle this going forward?
Well, I think the best way would be for our council or our mayor or both to have contact and interaction with our state legislators. They're the ones that can reverse this trend against local control. So I think we need to build a coalition, we need to build support among our state legislators and possibly also the governor if we have that interaction with them. And I'm also aware of the League of Cities and Towns, is an organization representing all the towns in the state. They can also be a partner that would help us with that. So those are the things I would pursue.
Thank you. Debbie?
Yes, I agree that the League of Cities and Towns is a big advocate on our behalf of the cities and towns in Arizona and helping us maintain our local control. There's nobody that knows better about what the towns and the cities need than the people that live there and that are closest to it. It's very difficult when state legislators push ordinances down at the city and town level that we have no control over. So it requires a lot of interaction and support bidirectionally with the league and contacting our state legislators when there's a bill, constantly staying informed of what the legislation is that's before the vote so that we can send letters of support or against. We just have to remain diligent about it. And I know that our mayor and manager are always on top of it and discussing it with other mayors and managers in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie?
So I think this is why NACOG and the League are partners for us. They support us in this. They do a ton of advocacy for us at the state legislature. The Rural Transportation Group that I am very active with, Kevin Adams is at the legislature all the time, talking to people on our behalf, building bridges, cementing those relationships so that we can continue to have conversations with our legislators. But we all need to vote. We need to pay attention to what's happening at the state legislature. They have taken away a ton of money from us in removing the rental tax, and that was really problematic. And what we can all do is create an account on request to speak, and anytime there's a bill in the legislature, every single one of us, and I do this every week, but every single one of us can go and tell our state legislators what we think about the bill that is in front of them.
Thank you. Amanda?
May be appropriate for Phoenix or Flagstaff, may not be appropriate for us here in Clarkdale. So we do need to be aware of what is going on at the state level and again, fight for what we need to control for life here in Clarkdale. So we need to control our town to where we need it to be. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question, Debbie, you'll be up first. It's 1 minute, and it's on housing. Affordable housing is critical here, as in other communities. How do you see your role in helping Clarkdale succeed in attaining this goal?
The council just recently put forth a motion to have a housing study done so that we could do an inventory of current housing that's available and identify what those gaps are. Once that survey comes back, it will be reviewed and shared with the community so that we better understand. But it's going to give us then a roadmap as to what land would be available and what size housing would best fit in those areas. Affordable housing is very subjective. I call it workforce housing. We need our police and our nurses and our doctors to be able to live in the town that they serve. And I think that that's what we need to be looking at. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie?
Thank you. So we already know from the survey that was conducted a number of years ago that we have a lot of single-family homes in Clarkdale, but we don't have a diversity of housing types. And single-family homes are not right for everyone. And so that's why I'm really excited about the survey that the Vice Mayor referenced. It was paid for by a grant that we received, and that is going to help us to make sure that we have the right housing for our community, for what people who want to live here need, and for what the people who do live here need. I see council's role as really continuing to have these conversations and making sure that when developers come to the town, they know what we envision for ourselves from our plans, and so we can really help guide them to what Clarkdale needs and wants.
Thank you. Amanda?
Housing is certainly an issue here in Clarkdale and the entire Verde Valley, especially affordable housing, which of course is also subjective. However, there are things that we can do. Cottonwood has the $10,000 grant for the home buyers that live in the town. I would like to explore doing something like that here in Clarkdale. I would also like to look at partnering with the Habitat for Humanity, because they come in and they can do projects that will provide housing for folks. They do multifamily and single family residents. I would exploring different partnerships with nonprofits such as the Habitat for Humanity, I think would be a great start. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan?
Well, I think affordable housing is kind of a complicated situation. You can't just put houses out there and expect people, to have developers build houses that are cheap enough that people are going to be able to afford them. And I mean, another possible answer is the town buy land and build its own houses and then have public housing. I think it's really a complicated situation. Another possibility is subsidizing housing or getting federal funding to help do that. Maybe the housing survey, the housing study that the town is going to do will help with that. But I think we need to build coalitions. I think we also need to lean on the city of Cottonwood. They have more resources, and probably get help from the county and other communities in the Verde Valley to deal with affordable housing. Thank you.
Thank you. Marty, you're up next for this question, and you have 1.5 minutes. And it's on the general plan. I'm waiting for the timekeeper to get the 1.5 minutes. Good. What is your familiarity with Clarkdale's current general plan? Did you participate in plan development? And what topics do you feel are the most important to address?
Thank you. So I was seeking a position on council when the general plan was going through its process, and so I was unable to participate as a volunteer. but I attended every single meeting via Zoom because most of it happened at the height of the pandemic. And so those meetings were all virtual. I would say that I am familiar enough with it. I certainly reference it when I need to. I go back, I look at it. What did we say? What was our plan? And I think that the most important things are the water issues and the infrastructure. Those are my issues. Those are the things I'm going to keep talking about because they're important to every single one of us. I want you to go home and have clean water coming out of your tap, and I want you to flush your toilet and it to not come up in your neighbor's house.
Thank you. Amanda?
Okay, I did not participate in the general plan because it was all on Zoom, so that was kind of hard to do. Plus, I was still in Cottonwood at the time. But I think that having it on Zoom maybe made it unavailable to a lot of folks who may have wanted to participate. I understand it was during COVID and that's how things had to be done, but I think a lot of the public missed out. It's also unfortunate that it wasn't on public vote, which a lot of towns do. I understand that we're under the population to vote for a general plan, but I think since it affects all of us, it should have been up for a vote. I'd like to look at zoning, readdress that, and the historic preservation, because I know that's very important in the general plan, and I think we need to go back to looking at that, because I think some of that was kind of missed during the bandstand. But of course now it's being addressed since we're back to working with the State Historic Preservation Office. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan?
I'm fairly familiar with the general plan, having served on the general plan update committee, but I don't exactly remember it from 5 years ago, so I have reviewed it recently. The general plan is long. It's probably 200 pages, maybe to 300 pages. It's very long. It covers a lot of issues. And so kind of summarizing the whole thing is hard. What's important to me is the beginning of the general plan, where they list what survey results were, what is important to the residents of the town. And that's where I talked about the keeping the small town atmosphere and the historic aspects of Clarkdale. They also asked, what don't you like, what you want to avoid, and like big growth issues was something that they wanted to avoid. So there are probably about 15 chapters in the general plan, and unfortunately it's like I said, there's a tension between what the residents want, like the natural environment. There are chapters on water, the chapters on open spaces. There are also chapters on development, like the town needs development in order to sustain its city government financially and its businesses. So it's got a lot of sort of conflicting information in there. But to me, the most important part is what the town citizens want to see. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
I am very familiar with the general plan. I consider it the encyclopedia of Clarkdale. It's actually a 306-page document that covers all aspects of the community vision for a decade. The table of contents is 7 pages by itself. And the general plan being the encyclopedia, the strategic plan then comes out of that. And that creates our 6 goal areas that we all focus on that then transforms into the budget. And every decision that's made at the council level ties back to the strategic plan and those 6 key areas that we focus on. So I do consider it very important. It does cover, like I said, all aspects of Clarkdale, including infrastructure, building, everything that you'd ever want to know about Clarkdale. And it's a good read. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question will be a minute and a half. And we start with you, Amanda. And this is on the council manager roles. What is your understanding of the council manager form of government? What is the council's role in supporting the success of the town manager? And what would be your role in daily operations of the town?
Well, the council, of course, were elected by the community, and of course the staff works for the town. So our job is to listen to the community for what you would like to see have in Clarkdale. And when there are proposals brought to us, to research every angle of that before voting and asking as many questions as we can. I like to ask a lot of questions. Sometimes I ask the same question many times, just so I'm clear. So our job is to research and remember who voted for us and represent them, not just ourselves. Thank you.
Nathan?
The council manager form of government, the council are the elected representatives and they make the decisions that guide the town. The town manager is the administrator. The town manager executes the decisions that the council makes. Of course, the manager provides a lot of information to the council to make those decisions, but it is the council that has the ultimate responsibility. I think the day-to-day duties of the council, they're not day-to-day. They're mostly happen when there are council meetings going on. Council members do attend other conferences of other organizations that they participate in, such as NACOG. So council members do that, but the day-to-day operation of the town is handled by the town manager and her staff. I think we have a really great staff here in Clarkdale. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
The mayor-manager form of government, the council collaborates and supports a professionally trained manager to formulate policies and goals. Council entrusts the manager with the task of executing their decisions, and the manager responsibilities include playing a key role in proposing policy recommendations, executing council decisions. The manager and their team handle personnel management, town operations within the council-approved budget, day-to-day town services, conducting in-depth research on various topics to provide the council with unbiased pros and cons of policy options. The best example of this is what we have right here in Clarkdale. We have an ICMA certified manager who's organized and a thorough leader who communicates with staff, council, and the community at large. She's quick to inform on critical issues with an action plan already identified. We work together with respect and cooperation for the greater good and a better Clarkdale. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie?
So, as everyone already said, we have a professional manager, a professional staff who are educated, who take their jobs extremely seriously, and we are so lucky to have them in Clarkdale. And then we as the council set direction. And I think one of the best ways to understand that is a thing that we have called the project matrix. And so the strategic plan goes into this giant worksheet, and it's all color-coded and coded by the priority of the project and then the completion rate of the project. So everything in the strategic plan, as council people, we can at any time go check on it, see where it is, and then as things change, we can ask for the priority of things to be changed. So there are things that staff might think are a C and we think are an A, and so we can ask for that to be moved, we can ask for that to be changed, we can add things in, although we try to not add things outside of strategic planning, except to the CIP, because it's never ending. But I think we're really fortunate to have the the manager council form of government, because it really works. It creates continuity and it creates plans that help us get things done.
Thank you. The next question, Nathan, you'll be first on this one. You have 1 minute, and it's about budgeting. What is the biggest challenge that Clarkdale faces as it relates to budgeting, and how would you address this challenge?
Well, I attended a lot of the budget work sessions that the council had. I think the biggest challenge for the town is the lack of revenue, or the reduction in revenue that the state has imposed by doing away with the rental tax and also cutting down the state shared income tax revenue. So I think the biggest challenge is the town struggles to have enough money to do all the projects that it needs to do. but we have a really well-organized town, and we have an excellent grant manager who finds a huge amount of grants to get the projects done that we need. So I would continue that. We have an excellent system in place right now. I see no reason to change it.
Thank you. Debbie?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Sure. What is the biggest challenge that Clarkdale faces as it relates to budgeting, and how would you address that challenge?
Okay. It's always about money, right? We just approved a $43 million budget, and the biggest challenge in that budget was determining what revenues we're going to get in so that we could budget appropriately to spend that money. Because nearly half of that budget is in grant fund, and we cannot spend those grant dollars unless we have them budgeted. So you almost have to have the crystal ball effect to understand what projects you have, how we're going to fund them, and when that money is going to come in so that we have it budgeted appropriately.
Thank you. Marnie?
So I would say that the biggest challenge we have in budgeting is that the state of Arizona will not let us alter our budget in any way after we pass it. So we have to plan for and predict that emergencies will happen. When the sewer line under the park went out, and I can't remember what incredible number they told us it was going to be, we were panicking because we didn't have that money in the budget. And if the money's not in the budget, we can't spend it, and there is nothing we can do until the next fiscal year. So we were gonna have sewage in people's yards until we could fix it. So the hardest part about budget is having that crystal ball, budgeting for emergencies, budgeting for grants, budgeting for the future that we just can't see. And I am proud of the job that we did this year. I think we did a great job planning for the future, having contingencies in case we need them, but hopefully with the planning and knowing what infrastructure needs we have coming down the pike, we will plan and be able to fix things before they break.
Thank you. Amanda?
I do think that the current staff is doing a great job with the budget. I was at the budget meetings too. They went by really fast. It was a long day, but I enjoyed it. So I think with looking for grants, I think they're doing a great job on that. However, I would like to see more proactive. I understand that Meals on Wheels is losing funding, and I would like to see Clarkdale contribute to that. But of course, since we can't alter the budget, that may be a challenge unless we can look at some other way to address that. But being proactive on things like Meals on Wheels, which is with one of our great partners with NACOG. So going forward, being aware of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie, you're up first for the next question, and it's on the strategic plan, and we have a minute and a half. Okay. Clarkdale reviews its strategic plan annually. What elements of the plan resonate with you the most? What is your commitment to strategic planning for the community going forward?
Strategic plan. We just approved the 24-26 plan. We did some minor modifications from the previous plan, and it's got a lot of great information. And what I talked about earlier with the 6 goal areas, each one of those goal areas is part of the general plan. And underneath each of those goal areas of the 6 are strategies and tactics that number anywhere from 10 to 24 items that are budgeted for that we will accomplish this year. And a new thing that's come out of the strategic plan this year is the annual report. And that clearly identifies everything that has been accomplished during the strategic plan period. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie?
The thing that resonates the most with me about the strategic plan is it's what we heard from all of you. The strategic plan initiatives come from the community survey, they come from town staff, they come from council, but really they come from you. So the things that our community is asking for, that you guys want to see, that's where we listen to you. We put them in the strategic plan, we come up with the objectives, how can we meet this? I asked somebody if I could put a campaign sign in their yard the other day, and they said only if we can talk about extending Black Hills Drive. And I was able to say, you know what? That is in the strategic plan. We can absolutely talk about extending Black Hills Drive, and we're already thinking about it.
Thank you. Amanda?
For big decisions such as the PAD for the Highland. So continue with neighborhood meetings. I did appreciate that we had the work session a month ago where we talked about the flag ordinance and the PAD expiration. So more of that I think would be important so we have everybody aware of what's going on before they see it in the newspaper. Thank you.
Nathan?
Well, I'm familiar with the strategic plan. It has 6 different goal areas. But if you look at the general plan and the 6 different goal areas, each goal area has about 20 different actions that the town wants to take or could take or should take. So for me, looking at the general plan, it was a little bit, it seemed like a huge shotgun approach, that there were so many things that were in there that could possibly be done. I didn't know, it wasn't easy to tell where the council's focus is. I mean, are we focusing on this particular goal, that particular goal? And in that particular goal area, I mean, what is the priority? What is the priority of these 20 different actions that we could take? The goals, I don't remember the exact goal areas, but I am always most interested in historical preservation. So that is the one that jumped out at me. I think there are a lot of good objectives within that goal area. But again, I need help in knowing, like, what are we going to do first? What's going to be the most important? If we can only do one of these 20 things, which one is it going to be?
Thank you. The next question, Marnie, you'll be first. It's 1.5 minutes, and it's on regional endeavors. Cities, towns, and the Yavapai Apache Nation in the Verde Valley work together in regional and statewide collaborations in such endeavors as emergency services, regional economic development, transportation, tourism marketing, outdoor recreation, etc. What role should Clarkdale, council members, and the mayor have in regional initiatives, and what collaborative actions would you support?
I think I'm already actively involved in this. I think about the Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization, which is every community in the Verde Valley. It's NACOG, it's the Forest Service, and it's everyone coming together to talk about our transportation needs. The Circle Trail kind of came out of that group and went into another group, but we talk about what we need, emergency services. So I think this stuff is super important. I think we all need to be involved. Each council person is on at least 2 committees right now that are regional, and this is the only way we're going to get things done, because as I said earlier, we are too small to do it on our own. We have to partner, and the best way to partner is to be at those tables and to actively participate. So I sit on VVTPO, I sit on the NACOG transportation. I know that the vice mayor sits on NACOG, which is one of the biggest, and so we're out there, but we have to be. That's the only way we're going to get this stuff done.
Thank you. Amanda?
Can you repeat the question?
Of course. Cities, towns, and the Yavapai Apache Nation in the Verde Valley work together in regional and statewide collaborations in such endeavors as emergency services, regional economic development, transportation, marketing, outdoor recreation, etc. What role should Clarkdale, council members, and the mayor have in regional initiatives, and what collaborative actions would you support?
This is another one of those things that I'm getting to learn about. But what I will tell you is the community as a whole is we're in this together. When I worked at Flagstaff Area National Monuments, I thought it was really important to get the community involved with what we were doing. So we would have events that brought them in, such as the Walk in the Moon, we would have talks, we would have presentations, not just focusing on the tourists, but focusing on the locals, because the monuments were in their backyard too. So looking at that approach with the National Park Service, getting the neighbors, getting the community, we would partner with Flagstaff to do events. We would partner with the county to do events, and that involvement kept motivation with preserving nature, of course, and what we were doing, instead of just being, oh, that's just a national park over there, I don't know what they're doing, isn't it like the Grand Canyon, it's for the tourists? No, we were part of the community. So I see that as the same thing with our partners here. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan?
Well, with regional endeavors, as you said, we're a small town and we would need to rely on our partners or other Yavapai Apache Nation, other Verde Valley cities and towns, county. I think the council and mayor's role is to prioritize. I mean, if there's something that we need to change or do about these joint endeavors that we're working on, I think the mayor and council need to prioritize, like, what is the biggest issue? What's the biggest problem that we need help dealing with? So that would be my direction. To me, again, I hate to go back to the water issue, but I think water is a huge issue that we're all going to have to deal with on a regional basis. And I would look to all our fellow cities and towns and the county and possibly the state as far as dealing with our water issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
As Councilmember Babbitt Pierce just stated, every council member that we currently have sits on a various regional board. For example, one of them sits on NAMWA, which is the Northern Arizona Municipal Water Association, so that is focused on water. I sit on NACOG, and that is Northern Arizona Council of Governments, and there's representatives from every Northern Arizona city and town, and we review and share experiences and get things accomplished through board collaboration. They deal with issues such as emergency transportation, education, and we leverage those relationships because we're constantly present in them. Thank you.
Thank you. Amanda, you're up next on the first one. And this one is on water. A minute and a half. Water is an important resource in Arizona. Clarkdale has worked on projects designed to preserve the Verde River. Talk about your concerns regarding priorities around water resources, particularly regarding growth in the area. How would you reuse or reduce water usage? And what do you think Clarkdale's biggest challenge is as it relates to our water and our sewer systems?
Well, the sewer system is quite old and probably could be addressed. I understand the pipes are quite old, and the unregulated growth or fast growth, of course, will weigh in on that, and it will put a strain on the water, which we only have so much of. I think we need to continue doing studies. I would like to see another water study that's conducted. I'm not sure if the smart meters are gonna be the water savior. We will learn more about that as it comes about. I understand that those are getting installed. Just be more aware, maybe more education. I think a couple education panels in neighborhood groups would be wise to do, so people know why they need to conserve water instead of just having it in their newsletter on what days they can water their lawns, and they may not know why it has to be those days. So I think more education to the residents would also be important. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan?
Well, I think water, as I've already said, it's going to be a huge issue in the future. The Verde Valley is growing and the Prescott area is growing, and the water that the cities in the Prescott area uses is groundwater, and groundwater is the source of the Verde River. Prescott continues to grow, the Verde River is going to dry up. It's horrifying to think about, but it's possible. So I think one of the most important issues is regional cooperation between, if we can get the county to have a water advisory committee again, we need to work together with all the cities in the county And I think a special emphasis needs to be put on water conservation because obviously there's growth in the Prescott area. We need to ask Prescott area folks to conserve their water because it supports the Verde River. We're going to have to be doing the same water conservation here in Clarkdale. We're also going to have to be reusing treated wastewater. There are some uses for that, watering plants, things on the outside, and rainwater harvesting. We're going to have to do a lot of work to ensure that we have enough water for the future, which is important for our children and our grandchildren. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
When I went to the League conference last August, it was noticeably different, the discussions about water. It always used to be held behind closed doors, and now it was very public. There were a lot of different breakout sessions and discussions about it. So water is a huge topic here in the state, and people are talking about it and doing things about it. And one thing we've done is we've got a grant in-house to do a complete evaluation of our water infrastructure. We know that we want to put a backup or a redundant well in place. We've got the water study done and the results of that, and the smart meters came out of that. And I could tell you when I first joined the council, we had a lot of leaky water that was unaccounted for because of leaks, and that a lot of improvement to the infrastructure has taken place, so that's down to minimal amounts. We also, the Yavapai Apache Nation just announced the water adjudication agreement that was agreed upon with our cities, or our town specifically. So that is great news. That's going to give us water security in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Marnie?
So a number of years ago, a water adequacy study was completed, and the town of Clarkdale was certified. And as part of that water adequacy study, it projected out how much water we would need at different points in time to still have enough water to meet the demands. And it's really cool to see that since that happened, we are actually using about half of what they predicted we would be at this point in time, because people are more aware. Washing machines, dishwashers, toilets are more efficient. We are just better about conserving water. So as the Vice Mayor pointed out, we are doing another water study because we can never be sure of what's under the ground. We also need a crystal ball for water like we do for budgets. The other thing that's a real challenge for Clarkdale as we move forward is that half of our homes are on septic, not on sewer. And so until we can get those homes on sewer, we can't recapture that water for potable reuse. And so if we want to have more than just purple pipe to sell them on Genie Park to water the lawn, which is great, and I'm super excited about it, and we need that, but we have to capture all the wastewater in town so we can treat it and we can have that source of water for our community.
Thank you. Nathan, you'll be up next. This is 1 minute, and it's on sustainability. How do you describe Clarkdale's culture of sustainability? What are your priorities for continuously improving sustainability? And what is your vision for sustainability in Clarkdale?
Well, it's a lot to cover in a minute.
I know.
Well, again, sustainability to me means looking into the future and determining if the way you're treating the land, the resources that you're using are going to be able to last into the future at the current rate you're using them or current practices you're doing. So I think, again, water is the number one issue. As far as sustainability of town, we need to ensure that we're conserving water, we're using water efficiently, but we also have to look into the future and say, we can't keep using the same amount of water. We can't just keep drilling wells deeper and deeper. Eventually we're going to run out of water. So other sustainability issues to me are recycling and also growth of the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
Sustainability is a big buzzword with a lot of stuff behind it. It could talk about resource sharing. It could talk about water sustainability. It could talk about town sustainability. How are we going to have funding to move into the future? So there's a lot surrounding it, and I think that the town as a whole has been very proactive in a lot of those areas. We are a dark sky community. That also plays into sustainability. We're a solar community. We were one of the first solar communities in Arizona. We've got electric charging stations in town that could serve for sustainability as well, for alternate forms of transportation. We're looking at multimodal road access points so that people can ride bicycles or walk safely within the town. So there's a lot of different angles of sustainability, and again, it all goes back into the strategic plan and general plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie.
I want to talk about things that haven't been mentioned yet. So the Verde River at Clarkdale and the partnerships that we have to get our youth out on the river and teach them about sustainability, teach them about that ecosystem. And then I think another really important part of sustainability is historic preservation, in maintaining the buildings that we have and making sure that we are using them, that they're well suited for the best use in 2020. So that could look like a lot of different things, but really taking the shell and making it work for us now. It doesn't need to be what it was when it was built 100 years ago. Part of sustainability is honoring that history and using it to support our community now.
It comes in too quickly. It will not have the organic diversity that we'd like to see. It will not respect the story. And eventually it'll just degrade, and there needs to be money to continue to maintain the high density that came in quickly. And since we cannot predict, we can't predict with the budget and with water, since there's sometimes surprises in that. If high density comes in quickly versus slow growth, we might have surprises that we cannot afford. So looking in the future, it's best to keep it to slow growth so we don't get over our heads and look like any other town that is cookie cutter. Thank you.
Thank you.
And how long on this question?
1 minute, so thank you.
We're actually in process already of changing the 89A overlay, because some of the zoning that was put in place, actually back when I was on parks, or on planning and zoning, no longer relevant today. Talking about setbacks. One thing that recently came to light was the setback on 89A for a commercial business would put them right back into a neighborhood. Nobody wants to be looking at the back of a business, whatever that might be. So that is probably one of my biggest priorities right now, is getting the 89A zoning overlay changed.
Thank you, Marnie.
At the risk of being a broken record, I am also excited about the 89A overlay, because when Michael and I moved from First South over to by Dollar General, where we are now, the first thing my neighbors told me about was the cell tower that should not have been placed as close to the neighborhood as it was, and it is as close to the neighborhood because of the overlay district. So by removing the overlay district, it's still commercial zoning, all of the underlying zoning is still maintained, but it means exactly what the Vice Mayor said, that the buildings will be at the front of 89A instead of on top of the neighborhood.
Thank you. Amanda?
I agree with the 89 overlay. When I was back in Indiana, I noticed that one of the subdivisions that I grew up near, it once had fields behind it, but now it has businesses right behind it. So I don't think we want to see that happen with 89 either. So just to be respectful of that. But one thing that I don't want to see change, I want to see it stay the same, is I don't want to have the expiration for the PADs to go away. I want the expirations to stay in place. Thank you.
Nathan?
Well, if I could change one thing about zoning, I mean, I would want to shoot for the moon. I would like to see our zoning change so there are more open spaces. The zoning code allowed for more open spaces in the town, so there just simply wouldn't be development. That way we could ensure that we have our small town atmosphere, our light traffic, our quietness, So that would be the main thing. Aside from that, I would also like to see some kind of historic preservation aspect in the zoning regulations. I know that town and the Historical Preservation Commission is trying to get a historic preservation ordinance passed, and I think I know there are problems with it, but I would like to see some kind of zoning in place regarding historic preservation to make sure that we preserve our historic buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, and this will be our last question. And Marty, we're going to start with you. It's 1 minute, and it's on historic preservation. The architecture in historic Clarkdale is important to the history and the atmosphere of our historic town. Share your thoughts regarding how best to approach preserving these buildings, and do you believe a historic preservation ordinance is necessary, or is being on the historic register enough? And Marty, we start with you.
Thank you. So we started the process to initiate a historic ordinance because it allows us to become a certified local government, and there are some benefits that come along with that. And when the process was started, the council decided that it was in our best interest to do so. I am in support of a historic preservation ordinance as long as it is optional, because people who are in downtown right now, who own businesses, who are working on those buildings, are doing a fantastic job. There are some incredible renovations happening. There are some wonderful businesses down there that we all love and I hope we support. And so we need to support what's already going on down there. I don't worry that our buildings are at risk. I think anyone who's going to come into historic Clarkdale loves it as much as we do, and that by making the ordinance mandatory, we risk watching those buildings rot.
Thank you. Amanda.
Okay, I do support historic preservation, of course. A historic preservation ordinance would be great as a guideline and as a resource, but not as something that is mandatory. Reading the language in the historic preservation ordinance as it is now is not the most clear, which now, of course, is being worked on again, so that is good. But the language needs to be more inviting, suggest stuff for the building owners to do, not be forceful, and be a source of education as to why they might want to do certain things with their buildings instead of being forceful. So more of a resource, and maybe even a resource for funds to go towards the buildings that they need to restore, whether it be grants or through the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Nathan.
I support Clarkdale having a historic preservation ordinance. I know in its current form, I've been present at the meetings when business owners have come to the meetings, and it's really unacceptable to a lot of business owners that I've seen. So I think it needs to be changed so it's a lot more constructive, and it's clearly voluntary, so that if businesses wanted to opt in, they would get a lot of advantages, a lot of support from the town. So it would be optional, but they would have the help there that's needed. So I think we need that, but it needs to be more constructive, get more feedback from the businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie?
I also will echo what Councilmember Babbitt Pierce said. We started down the path of a historic preservation ordinance for a little different reason. We do want to protect those buildings from being demolished, but we have excellent examples in our downtown area of businesses that have come in and done adaptive reuse and have demonstrated it very well that it works. I don't think that it should be mandatory. I do agree that the business owners that have come into town love those buildings and wish to do something with them. I think the unfortunate fact is that it takes a lot of money to do what we've seen as far as adaptive reuse, and the town has stepped in and is actively looking for grant money for these businesses that they can apply for. We've been very supportive. I think that those business owners are valuable assets to our town, and I continue to promote and support that we work with them proactively. Thank you.
Thank you. We've now reached the time for the closing statements by the candidates. We will do reverse order from the opening statements. So Marty, we will begin with you.
Thank you. I hope that my passion for the work of council has shown through to all of you here tonight. I love being on council. I love doing this work. It brings me great pleasure to know that we are providing the services to our community, and it would be an honor to serve you for the next 4 years.
Thank you. Debbie.
I wish to again thank everyone who has contributed to making this event a success. I'm so thrilled to once again be on the ballot for re-election to the Clarkdale Town Council. Our current council has been described as vibrant and a sensible town governance. I feel that we're thoughtful, mutually respectful, and act with integrity and innovation. All our essential leadership traits. With your vote and backing, I aim to sustain our progress and momentum over the next 4 years. We have a lot going on in Clarkdale, focused on a secure, safe, and vibrant town for our future. If I'm re-elected, I will not make promises that I cannot deliver on, but I am committed to fostering a collaboration among all stakeholders to facilitate negotiations aimed at reaching a solution that can garner majority agreement. As I respectfully seek your support and vote, I'm dedicated to fostering a flourishing, harmonious community that we can all take pride in, both now and in the future. Remember, your vote matters and makes a difference. Thank you for your trust and ongoing support.
Thank you, Debbie. Nathan.
I have 3 main platform issues that I've been running on as a candidate. I believe in open communication, being transparent, being accessible to people, and being responsive to residents and to business owners. It's important to know what people want to see happen, and that's our job, if we're on the council, is to respond to that. I also believe in preserving our town's historic resources as a very valuable asset of the town. Third, I believe in planning for the future of town infrastructure. I believe that we need to set aside money, as the council has done this year, for the future to plan for repairs on streets, water, and wastewater. I'm not running to push an agenda. I don't have huge political aspirations. I genuinely care about my community of Clarkdale, and I know that I can make a positive difference being on the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan. Amanda.
Thank you again for hosting this forum, and thank you to those who came to listen to us tonight. I look forward to hopefully serving our community on the council, where I will focus again on historic preservation, slow growth, and of course transparency, and of course participating with our community members to see what is needed and what is most important. Going forward, I will continue to remember the Rotary 4-way test, and as I go through each meeting, I will remember these 4 pillars of that. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all? Is it beneficial to all? Does it build good, stronger communities and friendships? Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. I would like to thank the candidates for being here this evening and the audience for your participation and your presence. Please remember that Election Day for the primary election is July 30th. The last day to register to vote, to change your party registration or update your address is actually 11:59 tonight. So if you haven't registered, please do so. Ballots will be mailed on the first, ballots will be mailed, and the first day to file an early ballot is July 3rd. Completed ballots can be returned by mail or dropped off at election locations. Once again, thank you, candidates and audience, and please remember that voting is people power. Thank you.